The Strength of 100 Men. The old man's name was Guro, and he lived in a small village near the mountains. He was well known for his strength that could match 100 men, but he never used it for any harm or destruction. He used his abilities for the good of his community and for his own personal needs, like catching coconuts from the trees or hunting for chickens for his meals. One day, Guro decided to go to a cockpit to watch a rooster fight. He brought his own rooster, which was a fierce competitor, and it ended up winning the match. The loser, who was a young man from a rival village, was filled with anger and challenged Guro to a fight. Little did the young man know, he also had the same abilities as Guro. The fight was intense, but the young man was faster and more agile, leaving Guro beaten and wounded. Just then, a young traveler named Matapang came to the village. He saw the old man lying on the ground and immediately rushed to help him. Guro invited Matapang to his home and offered to let him stay for a while. As they got to know each other, Guro shared his secret with Matapang. He had the ability to pass on his powers to someone else, but only to someone who was worthy and deserving. Guro told Matapang that there would be trials and challenges he would have to face before he could receive the powers. Matapang was eager to take on the challenges and prove himself worthy. With Guro's guidance, he trained and grew stronger, both physically and mentally. Eventually, after successfully passing the trials, Matapang was officially deemed worthy and received Guro's powers. He was filled with gratitude and promised to use the abilities for the greater good, just as Guro had done before him. And so, the old man's legacy lived on through the young traveler, and the village was forever changed for the better. Part 2. Matapang was not just any young man, he was a time traveler from the future. He came to the present to find the source of the mythical power that was rumored to give its possessor the strength of 100 men. He had always been fascinated by legends and myths, and he was determined to uncover the truth behind this particular story. However, when he arrived in the present, he quickly realized that the power was not just a myth. He met Guro and saw for himself the strength and abilities that he possessed. Matapang was determined to gain the power for himself, and he knew that he had an advantage over the others in his quest. With his advanced technology and gadgets from the future, Matapang set out to find the trials that would allow him to earn the power. He traveled to remote and dangerous places, facing countless challenges and obstacles along the way. But he never gave up, and his determination and bravery eventually earned him the power he sought. The young man who had beaten Guro was named Tigas. He was part of a group of brothers who each had their own special abilities, including Sipag, who could move faster than the speed of light, and Lakas, who was incredibly strong. Together, they were known as the Unstoppable Trio, and they ruled the rival village with fear and intimidation. Matapang was determined to avenge Guro and restore peace to the village. He trained harder than ever, honing his skills and mastering his powers. When the time was right, he confronted Tigas and his brothers in a fierce battle. Despite the odds, Matapang held his own against the Unstoppable Trio. He was quick and agile, dodging their attacks and striking back with his own. In the end, he emerged victorious, defeating Tigas and his brothers and freeing the rival village from their tyranny. Guro was proud of Matapang and the young man's actions. He knew that he had made the right choice in passing on his powers and that his legacy would live on through Matapang. The villagers celebrated the victory and hailed Matapang as their hero. From that day on, Ma Peng continued to use his powers for the good of the community. He worked to bring peace and prosperity to the villages, always guided by the wisdom and teachings of his mentor, Guru. And so, the old man's legacy lived on, inspiring future generations to follow in the footsteps of their heroes and use their abilities for the greater good. Part 3. As time passed, Ma Peng grew into a wise and respected leader in the community. He continued to use his powers to help those in need and to protect the innocent. He also trained a group of young people with special abilities, teaching them the importance of using their powers for good and not for evil. One day, a threat emerged from a distant land. A powerful and evil force, known as the Shadow Legion, was marching towards the village, determined to conquer and enslave the people. Ma Peng knew that he and his team of young heroes would need to band together to stop them. The Shadow Legion was led by a powerful sorceress named Morgath. She was a master of dark magic, and her army of darkness was nearly unbeatable. However, Ma Peng was not one to back down from a challenge. He rallied his team and prepared for battle. The two sides clashed in a fierce battle that lasted for days. Ma Peng and his team fought bravely, but the Shadow Legion seemed to be getting the upper hand. Just when all seemed lost, Guru appeared on the battlefield. Guru had not aged a day since Ma Peng had met him all those years ago. He had been watching from afar, and he knew that the time had come for him to intervene. With a fierce roar, he unleashed his powers and charged into battle. Guru fought with a strength and ferocity that even Ma Peng had never seen before. He single-handedly took down dozens of Shadow Legion soldiers, and his presence on the battlefield turned the tide of the battle. In the end, the Shadow Legion was defeated, and Morgath was captured and brought to justice. Guru disappeared as quickly as he had appeared, leaving Ma Peng and his team to bask in the glory of their victory. The villagers celebrated and hailed the heroes as the protectors of their land. Ma Peng learned a valuable lesson that day. He realized that with great power comes great responsibility, and he was honored to be carrying on the legacy of Guru and all the heroes who came before him. From that day on, he dedicated himself to using his powers for good and to making the world a better place for all. Ma Peng returned to the future, now with the strength of 100 men. He quickly became a hero, using his powers to protect the world from evil and to save those in need. He was hailed as a champion of justice, and his legend lived on for generations to come. But even with his advanced technology and his newfound powers, Ma Peng never forgot the lessons he learned during his journey. He always remembered the importance of using his abilities for good, and he never took his responsibility as a hero for granted. He became a symbol of hope for all those who believed in the power of good over evil, and he lived his life as a shining example of what one person can do to make a difference.